I just think, again, health is wealth, right? And there's so many things operating in our society that is, trying to tell us we don't deserve that. But we know we do. And it's women like myself and other women in the spaces in the space of health communication, and other spaces as well, who I think are working towards that change that is necessary.
This is the Luray Journey Podcast on the McKissick Health Podcast Network. I'm Dr. Sharella Cupid, your host. The Luray Journey Podcast is a space for Black women to choose themselves. Welcome back, sisters, sponsors, and supporters of the Luray Journey Podcast. For the fourth season, the theme is transitions. We'll continue the sister circle conversations with Black women from different stages of life with various personal, community, and professional roles. The intention of this season is to continue and start conversations on the meanings, experiences, and practices around transitions, such as becoming a mom, shifting careers, and establishing a new lifestyle. Thank you for being a part of the Luray Journey community, because Luray means love is real and eternal. So sis, let's practice love. Today we are in conversation with Daliah Ouedraogo. Daliah, may you please introduce yourself?
For sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Daliah Ouedraogo. I am a daughter. I'm an auntie of two. And in this current stage of my life, I'm an emerging scholar. So I'm a first-year graduate student pursuing my doctoral degree at Howard University, studying communications, culture, and media.
Thank you. I didn't ask you before, but how do you identify based on your generation? Like, what generation would you say you're a part of?
So I would say I was born 1998, Gen Z.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. I had to
Okay,
think
Gen
about it. I'm
Z.
like, yeah, Gen
No,
Z.
it's all good. Gen Z. Okay. All righty. Thank you, Daliah, because that conversation is also important, right? The ways we show up based on the generations that we are a part of. So thank you for the introduction. What brings you to this sister circle space?
So I was told about the Sister Circle space by my lovely classmate PJ. She mentioned the opportunity and to be in this space, and so I am happy that I'm here. But also, I just like to be in spaces that value Black women and our well-being, and so that is why I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you for accepting the invitation. I'm excited to hear more about your journey. So thank you again. Thank you also, PJ. So Daliah, if you could name this season of your life, what title would you give it and why?
So if I could name the season of my life, I would say I would call it the expansion. I feel like my perspective and my abilities are expanding, whether it's like in the classroom, whether it's, putting myself in spaces that um, value Black women more, whether it's learning how to be more sound with myself and grounded with myself. So I feel like I'm just being a better version of me by expanding.
Thank you. That's beautiful. So with this season being titled Expansion, how are you defining love?
That's a good question. So I am really defining love through just the words that I tell myself and being kinder to me. So with words of affirmation, like literally saying, I am a great person, I am beautiful, I am light, I am kind, I am, all the things that I want to be and more. And so, believing that and telling myself that is very important. So those words of affirmation is key for me.
Thank you. So with telling yourself who you are, what led you to pursue your doctorate?
hmm So we were talking about identity before. So I am Burkinabe American. So my parents are from West Africa, Burkina Faso, but I was born here in America. And so there's like a running joke that I have is like I could have only been one or two things, a doctor or a lawyer. I didn't want to be MD, so I chose, the doctoral studies path. But that's like a running joke. Um, the reason why I pursued my doctorate is really because I value research. Um, and more so, I value social science research. So I think that it's really important that we look at science through the lens of society because there's so much richness in that. And, the work of social scientists, like developing a research question, conducting a study, all the way down to like finding results and applying that to the people or the participants or the group that they're working with to make practical changes, whether it's like policy changes or just to better their lives, is really important for me and to me. So I just saw myself as a person that could do that, and I'm glad that I'm actually working towards that goal.
That's awesome. So, as a social scientist, are you a qualitative, mixed methods, quantitative researcher? When we think about
So
methodologies.
I am more so qualitative, um, but I am open to quantitative research methods, for example, and other research methods as well. So I am currently taking a critical research methods class, which I think I might even be leaning more towards than qualitative. Not sure yet. I'm just really enjoying the class and learning the methodology and how it applies to my specific research interests in health communication and Black women's health. So I would say right now I'm qualitative, but ask me a year from now, I might be critical. I don't
Okay,
know.
sounds good.
Yeah.
So, within this process, you also shared that you are a career student. So, can you share what a career student is and how your experience has been so far?
hmm So thank you for actually bringing that up. So a career student, from my knowledge, is someone who has gone um, all through like their bachelor's, their master's, and like their graduate studies without um, being employed. So I think that's the correct thing, right? Okay, great. So that was my experience. That is my experience. I've gone through my entire education without being employed. And I just was intentional about that. One, because I just wanted to go through and, knock out all the education. Um, but two, I think that that was important for me. And I know that's not everyone's story. But it's just like time. I think it's just like, I just, again, to my first point, like I just want to do this once and for all, because I enjoy it. And so, I want to be able to just, have my doctorate and, fulfill the goals that I have.
Excellent. So, within being a career student, did you take a gap year in between any of these degrees or did you go straight through?
So I almost did take a gap year between my
Okay.
bachelor's and my master's, but I just decided to put my application in. I got accepted. So I attended the College of New Jersey for my bachelor's and then Villanova University for my master's, and I'm now at Howard. So I almost did take a gap year, but I just decided to go straight through.
Okay. So, with going straight through, one, did you get all communication degrees? And then two, what has been your experience with mentors and mentorship?
Yes. So I have gotten all communication degrees. I just stuck with that route. And my relationship with mentors have been really incredible. The mentors that I have from undergrad to graduate school and my master's, they've just been so helpful beyond what I can think and imagine, whether it's giving me advice, whether it's connecting me to other people, whether it's like just speaking good things to me when I wasn't speaking good things to myself. So there's so many layers to my mentors, and can I just shout some of them? Jamal Johnson at the College of New Jersey, Chinesa Thorpe at the College of New Jersey, Dr. Allison Levin at Villanova, um, even right now, Dr. Rochelle Monday at George Mason University, Dr. Rashida Chandler at Emory University. So they're in different spaces, but I'm so glad that we've all connected. And they've been such a huge help. So I cannot stress enough having mentors, especially in graduate school or in any capacity. Really, they just make the difference.
So you shouted out your mentors who are at different universities.
Mhm.
So are they all within the field of communication studies, or are they in different disciplines?
So they're in different disciplines, I would say. I would say maybe two or three. Yeah, three of them are specifically in communication studies, and the rest, they're either like administrators within the university or in a different discipline.
So what do you think is the value of having mentors who are both within the discipline that
Mhm.
you are in and also in administrative positions?
Just the knowledge they have, right? So if I have a question or if I just need advice about communication studies, I know who to go to. And I know that they can give me a different perspective even on my question. But then also knowing that, I have a life outside of the field of communication studies. And some of my mentors are for that, right? So I can just call them and they can ask how I'm doing, how am I going through the program, what are my personal um things that I'm going through, or what am I excited about personally? And so we can have those conversations and it doesn't always have to be academic, you know.
Mhm.
So
That's
mhm.
good. So you mentioned that you got your master's in Pennsylvania. I'm curious, when were you in school during quarantine and how was that experience like?
So during quarantine, I remember I was still in undergrad. This was my senior year. At being at TCNJ, so it was my undergrad year, and it was such an adjustment coming home, doing classes at home. I love my mom, but she would be in the other room talking. I'd be like, Mom, I'm in class. Like, can you bring it down? Or she'd be like, Can you come do something? And I'm like, I'm in class. So it was a bit of an adjustment. But I think the power that was in this whole like quarantine and this situation here was that we actually made it work. Some way, somehow. My professors made it work, my classmates made it work. Um, we just had to make it work. So, yeah.
Did you have a graduation since you mentioned like what was that experience like? So you had a virtual or in-person graduation?
So we had an in-person graduation.
Okay.
Mhm.
And what was that experience like?
Um, it it was different. I mean, a lot of changes, with like, the distance and keeping 6 feet, wearing masks and all of that. So it was an experience, but I'm glad that it was towards like the end, like not towards the end of like quarantine, where it was just like, everyone would be able to like walk outside, but it was still that concern of whether we still had to be inside. So it was much later. I would say. And so, I mean, yeah, with the distance and the masks, I mean, we're glad for, these precautions to be taken, but at the same time, it was definitely an experience. But I'm glad that I had it in person.
Gotcha. I can relate. Yeah, we had a virtual graduation and they used like a robot to say our name. So it was really impersonal. So legit just logged off of it. And then later, I think I want to say a semester later or so, once it was still like those precautions,
Right.
but more, comfort with being together. Um, that's when they offered the opportunity for the first, cohort who graduated during the
Okay.
pandemic to attend graduation in
Okay.
person. So
Okay.
it felt less monumentous, in all honesty, having to experience graduation during quarantine.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes. I could
And you,
imagine.
would you say?
No, I said I could imagine.
Yeah.
Oh.
So you also relocated, right? During the
Hmm.
pandemic and you entered into a master's program. What was that experience like?
So it was so hard. Just trying to find somewhere to live. Um, Trying to just navigate a new city. And just a new, like, just graduate school in general, because it's very different from undergrad. So just those, again, multiple layers of like just feeling thrown into a lot of, um just trying to figure out so many things. But I did end up getting a place. I was connected with someone who allowed me to sublease. So that was interesting. And then just, getting into the swing of things at Villanova, and yeah, just navigating Philly. Because I don't think it's much different from New Jersey, but it was still an adjustment for me.
Yeah, I got my undergraduate from Drexel.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yes, Philly is definitely a special city. I
Yes.
like Philly. So, within that transition, what was community building like for you? So, you moved during the pandemic. What was community building like for you within your master's program? And did they have any particular practices in place to help you out through that time? Like, what did that look like for you as a graduate student?
So it was really about like my cohort, and us just, being there for each other in class, outside of class. And not only, again, the academic part, right, but the personal, your mental health, even your emotional health. How are you doing? Those check-ins were so important for me in my core, and I feel like I've gotten like, I was like really lucky to have the core that I had. But then also I worked at the Center for Speaking and Presentation. So I helped the communication students who were taking the Com 101 course with their communication skills and presentation skills. And I worked with two other people in that office, I would say. And I mean, they were great as well. So I had my cohort, I had the people I was working with at the CSP. And so it was really about just like, checking in. And I really appreciate that because I am the person who's like, all to myself. I could be, I love the solitude. So I can be, to myself, very reserved. But when you have people who show you that, yes, they care for you and they care about like your mental health and emotional health, you want to reciprocate that. So that's what was really helpful for me.
How large was your cohort?
So we were about, I want to say 8 or 9 of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how large is your doctoral cohort?
So let me count on my fingers. Myself, PJ, Christina, Antonio, Mary, Ayana, Tisha. I'm missing someone. Stella, 8.
Hey, okay. Already similar number. So, what advice would you give to someone who is relocating for their doctoral studies?
First, important, do your research, right? If you're going to relocate, do your research on where you're relocating to. Not only the program, but where would you be living, right? Will this be a place that you would want to live near, or a place that's a little farther, maybe to save some money? um, do your research. I would say also reach out to your cohort members even before you see each other in person, if that's something you can do, just to build that relationship even before like your first day on campus, or first day at orientation. Um, Another thing I would say, so do your research, speak to your cohort members if you can. Um, I would say even if like you can reach out to people who know about the area, right? So they don't necessarily have to live in the area, but if they know of the area or know other people in the area that can, tell you about like, or can help you about relocating, that helped me as well. Cause my mom knew friends who were in Philadelphia. So that helped a lot. So connection, so research and connecting with others, because the more information you know, the better.
Yes, that's very true. So, as someone who now has relocated for their doctorate, what is community building for you outside of the university? Like, does it exist? Is that something that the university helps with?
So I'm gonna be honest, it's been harder for me. I do have a friend who attends George Washington University. So I have community there, but because she's also a student, she's also busy. There's community, but I don't think enough, right? So I would say, um I for me, I just have to be intentional about, like, in this current stage of, where I am. I just have to be intentional even with my cohort members, just being more, again, intentional about building community outside of the classroom. And I think also just like connecting with people. It's super important, and I just have to to work on that. I don't know what it is, but I was better at it before, but now I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. But
Do you?
yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, go for it.
No, I was saying that I recognize that about myself, and that's something I'm working on, actively building community, because that's important.
Gotcha. I'm wondering if being in quarantine had a reason to do with it. I know they said that we socialize somewhat differently now post
Mhm.
quarantine. So I'm curious. And also the graduate journey can be a journey of a lot of solitude too. So I'm just wondering, do those factors come into play as you are thinking about it?
I'm glad that you brought that up. Yes, so quarantine has definitely changed the way we socialize. Um, I think something else that came to mind is that, like, with my cohort, we're again in different phases of our lives. Some of us are married, some of us have children, some of us are single, and just with ourselves. So it's like I don't ever want to be a bother to someone, right? And so that's something else that's in the back of my mind. But I do think it has to do with the socialization aspect. But again, it's really important for me, and advice that I like give to people as well, is just to be honest with yourself, right? Um, if you are not intentionally trying to build community, then it's going to be harder for that to happen. And I feel like I'm falling into that boat. And so I just need to find more opportunities to do that. And I'm sure they're there. So I just have to be intentional about it.
Okay. Sounds good. Connected to that, you uplifted that PJ is the person who extended the invitation. So, what does sisterhood look like now for you in this doctoral journey?
Yeah. I would say sisterhood looks like being open, honest, vulnerable, even, um, being a helping hand as well. PJ has been great for that. Shout out to PJ again. um, and just really like, I don't know, there's something about being around people who look like you, like being around Black women, and talking about issues related to Black women, possibilities related to Black women. And so I think sisterhood is about that, just talking about us, right? And centering us, and our lives and the importance of that. So that's what I think sisterhood looks like for me.
Okay. Thank you. This episode of the Lorraine Journey podcast is sponsored by Left on Red. Left on Red, founded by Dr. Latasha Ely Kelly, is a specialty bookstore and cultural space rooted in the mission to amplify representation, cultivate perspective, and empower community. With a focus on titles by Black authors and works of African American interests, the curated collection spans a range of genres and lived experiences, alongside thoughtfully selected stationery, keepsakes, and collectibles that reflect Black culture. Left on Red also hosts events, workshops, and programs that connect literature to everyday life, learning, and well being. As the home of the Millennial Black Professor and TMBP Media, Left on Red expands beyond the page through podcasting, storytelling, and creative media initiatives that honor underrepresented narratives and foster meaningful dialogue. This space exists to serve, support, and shift, offering both inspiration and intention for anyone seeking reflection, knowledge, and community. You can support Left on Red by visiting leftonredbooks.com. Again, that's leftonredbooks.com, or visiting the bookstore in Wichita, Kansas. Again, thank you, Left on Red, for sponsoring the Lorraine Journey podcast. And connected with that, talking about us and being among us, you shared that your focus area is Black women and health communication.
Yes.
What does that look like for you now as a doctoral student? And also, are you a research assistant? Are you a graduate assistant?
Yeah. So, okay, to your first question, yes. So I again, emerging scholar studying Black women's health, and communication. So for me, I always say I have two lines of research interests. The first one, Black maternal health, and then also a new one that I just discovered, um, Black women's beautification practices and power. And so for me, how I bridge that with communication is really, how do Black women communicate about health, right? Culturally, very important. How do we do that in our spaces, right? Whether it is the beauty salon, when you're going to get your hair done, your hair braided, right? How do these conversations come about? And why is that important that we have this, standpoint, in our own story, right? And how is that important to research? And so, with that, to your second question, can you remind me of your second question?
Sure. Are you also a research assistant, a graduate assistant? And if so, what does that look like for you now?
Yes. So I am a research assistant right now, working with one of my mentors, well, two of them, um, on a study, particularly one of them, Dr. Rochelle Monday, about sexual health, and dispelling cultural myths surrounding sexual trauma, and Black parents Black parents child sexual health communication. And so I am a research assistant on that project with her. So I am super happy to just be in the space with her to like dispel these cultural myths about sexual trauma, sexual health, regarding the Black community. And so that is I would say, my position right now, because it's one thing to learn about research and it's another thing to practice it. So she's helping me to practice it, and I'm learning everything. I'm learning something new every day. So she's been very helpful with that.
How far are y'all in this research project?
So we're actually building an digital intervention to increase Black parents' sexual health communication with their children. And embedded in that is we want to also dispel these cultural myths related to sexual health and sexual trauma. And so right now we're at the building intervention phase where we're working with the illustrator, um, trying to get these images, and we've put together a survey for the parents. So when they're exposed to the intervention, they're going to take the survey, pre and post survey. And so we're like really deep into the study.
That's excellent. How do y'all go about reaching out to the parents?
Yeah.
Like getting that pool? I'm curious.
Mhm. So we have a community advisory board. So we call that a CAB. And the CAB essentially, what we're going to ask the CAB to do is to like recruit other Black parents for the study. So we're also into that phase as well.
Okay, snowball sampling. Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. So within y'all creating the digital interventions,
Yes.
do y'all have any like long-term intended outcome? So for example, you're in health communication. So can you see this being a part in the public space somewhere where someone can access it, right? Like how do you see it, or how does your mentor see it in the long term?
Yeah. For
Mhm.
sure. So she always says something that sticks out to me. It's like she doesn't want to do research that is just like put on the shelf, meaning that it's not accessible to the people that she wants it to be accessible for, just not academia, but outside of academia. And so that's what I would characterize like how I see the research and where the long-term outcome of the research, right? The goal is to one, increase Black parents and their children's sexual health communication, right? So also increasing their self-efficacy. So making sure that Black parents are confident that they can even engage in that conversation with their children, because we know that this type of conversation can be taboo in our community. And so we want to make sure that it's important that Black parents know that that it's critical that we have these conversations, especially with our children. And so, yes, having this digital intervention, I'm not sure if she wants it, like, I don't want to speak for her, but
Okay, yeah, of
long term.
course.
But I know that it's like the research will be beneficial for Black parents in the long run. That is what I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, no, that makes total sense. More
Mhm.
education, the more power you have, like you
Yes.
uplifted earlier in the conversation. So within this research project, do you see any intersections for the lanes that you are? So you mentioned Black women's beautification processes and also Black women's maternal health. Do you see any intersections so far in this research?
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just the nuances of sexual health, communication, and um, like I talk about myths a lot because that's so prominent when it comes to like even perpetrating sexual violence, right? We talk about these myths. For example, I'm sure you heard of this before, but it's like, okay, well, this person, whether it's a female, more so female, but it could be a male too, but like, they provoked their perpetrator because of what they were wearing, right? Or the makeup they had on or how they looked, right? And so that is something with like the beautification practices and how you show up even. And how that can be a reason to cause you harm. And with Black maternal health, that's a good question. I don't think I've seen an intersection, but I'm sure there are intersections with Black maternal health. I guess, like, even now I'm thinking about it. Um, like interpersonal communication, right? Like harmful interpersonal communication when a victim, reports that they've been harmed, are they believed or are they, you know, questioned, right? Are they like, how are they spoken to? And does that even cause them more harm, like to their mental health, to their emotional health? And so, yeah, that's a really important question. Yeah, I think something to think about more.
Okay. Excellent. I'm looking forward to seeing the outcomes of your research, of y'all's
For sure.
research.
For sure.
So, within this journey thus far, what advice would you offer a first year graduate student? So, you're in your second semester, you
Yes.
have successfully completed the first semester. What advice
Mhm,
would you offer other graduate students?
mhm. First, know your why. Why are you doing whatever you are doing, right? So if you are going into a doctoral program, why are you asked me this question earlier, why did I choose to pursue a doctorate, right? So ask yourself, that's a really important question. What is your why? And if you remind yourself of that, I think it just makes things easier. And my second thing is get a therapist because whew, it's a blessing to be like in this academic space, challenging, um what is not known, challenging what is known based on your research interests, because that is a thing too, but you also want to make sure that you are sound, right? And so use your resources. And I think a therapist is an awesome resource to use. And yeah, so I would say know your why and please get a therapist. Yes.
Yes, it's great advice. During my doctoral
Mhm.
training, that was the first time I went to therapy, and it had nothing to do with the graduate
Yes.
journey. But of
Mhm.
course, like we are whole persons, right? You uplifted that you're an aunt, you're a student, you're a daughter, and all of these roles intersect and life happens. It doesn't pause just because you're getting a graduate degree, right?
Right. Well said.
So I would definitely second that. And also, unfortunately, the mental health outcomes for a lot of doctoral students, they're poor, right?
Or
Like think
yes.
about those who die by suicide and those who experience the like higher rates of chronic depression. So I would definitely second that point of seeking therapy during the graduate study, and also connected to what you said about your mentors, the importance of your mentors realizing that you're not only a graduate student, but you're a whole person.
Yes.
So I would also add on to that to make sure that the mentors that you hold dear and close during your doctoral journey can also help you to remember that, okay, like I know that you have a why for the completing the doctoral degree, but also you're a whole person. And don't forget that.
Mhm.
Yeah. So within you being a first year doctoral student, what does it look like for you to thrive in this season? What does it sound like, feel like, taste like? You can bring in any senses to
Yeah.
uplift that.
Okay. So what does it look like? It looks like a lot of stickies around my apartment. None back here, but around my apartment. Again, I'm big on words of affirmation. So a lot of post-it, a lot of stickies that I can just look. I go in my kitchen, there's one in my bathroom, there's one that just reminds me to be kinder to myself. So a lot of stickies around. What does it sound like? I always go back to the sound of my niece and my nephew just laughing and playing is so thriving, especially like when I'm the cause of that, happiness, like that's bubbling in them. I think that is what it sounds like to thrive. Um, and then what is it? Other senses. Let's see. Um, what does it taste like? That is ooh, that's a different taste every day. It could be sour, it could be sweet, just to thrive. But again, that's just the honesty of it, right? Yeah. Mhm.
Thank you. So
Yeah.
you uplifted that hearing your nieces, nephews
Mhm.
laughter and
Yeah.
play is a
Mhm.
part of you thriving. So consider your primary roles:
Yeah.
aunt, a daughter, a doctoral student.
Mhm.
What is a reminder to yourself to circle back to feel grounded?
Yeah. Um, a reminder to myself to feel grounded. First is I always lean on prayer. I think prayer is so key for me because, again, I am a daughter, I am an aunt, I am a graduate student, but I don't always find the strength to be all of them. And so when I do pray, and I go back, I always go back to the scripture, but like I can do anything through Christ who strengthens me. It's just like knowing when I'm weak, he is strong. Also that scripture, it's just like, yeah, going back to like that prayer that grounds me. And through that prayer, I can say, well, I do want to be a good daughter. I do want to be the best aunt. I do want to be an exceptional scholar. And so I think that is what, like, that's the number one thing I would say that grounds me. It's like prayer and communicating with God.
Okay. And it is so, as we say, right?
Yes.
So, this is a circle community is named Luray Journey. What Luray mean in love is real and eternal. What is your understanding of love being real and eternal?
My understanding of love being real and eternal. These are powerful questions, by the way.
Yeah.
um, I would say love being real and eternal. Hmm. Okay, I'm gonna ask you, what would you put that as?
Yes. So I would say, in regards to love being real, is that it exists. Like we have
Mhm.
evidence of it.
Yeah.
Right. So whether or not that's the fact that the earth holds us. So even beyond that human perspective, like we have all that we need because the earth provides. And also with it being eternal, I think now I'm thinking more about legacy and intergenerationally, like what wisdom is carried forward. So what did your grandmother's generation leave for you, right? And that could be anything from a recipe to a song to a prayer that you're used to hearing. And the fact that that resides in us, and sometimes we can hear their voices. And even just from like being an aunt as well, what lessons do I want to offer to my nieces and nephews so that way they know that love exists and also that they too are encouraged to be better humans, even in a society that does not center wellness. So I would say like those are the two ways in which it's operating for me right now.
That's beautiful.
Thank
That's
you.
beautiful. Okay. I mean, I would say, okay, like, you know how they say like love is a four-letter word, but love is also an action, right? It's showing up for myself and it's showing up for others too, not being selfish, but showing up for others as well. And then being eternal. I think I would second what you say about legacy, because that's important. It's like, what is the longevity of this, right? And yeah, if I can, you know, inspire others, whether it's like my niece and my nephew, or the people in academia and in that space, or just like a stranger on the street, it's just like, what am I bringing to the world? And again, that question of why. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. So, how can we find you in a public space? Do you have any public social media accounts? Where can folks find you?
So I do have, you can find me on LinkedIn if you want to connect. Daliah Ouedraogo. You can find me on Instagram. I'm underscore Dahlia. Uh, I talk about my work there, my research interests, even a little bit about my personal life too. So you can find me there.
Thank you. And I
Mhm.
know that you are in your first year, but what project do you hope to explore that either centers Black women beautification process or Black women's maternal health?
Yes. So I have two projects.
Okay.
So my first semester, I wrote a proposal about skin bleaching practices in the
Mm,
Black community. Right.
okay.
So dealing with colorism, dealing with, again, beautification practices, and how do we communicate about, you know, beauty essentially through the lens of practicing skin bleaching. So that's a project that this was a qualitative study that I proposed. So that's something that I hope to pursue in the near future. And another project that I'm working on now is related to Black maternal health. But I took the avenue of Black women's communicative resistance, right? And so Black women's communicative resistance is essentially how Black women counter harmful interpersonal communication experiences. So, what does that look like for a pregnant woman who is experiencing bias or racism, right? And how do they counter that in this space, right? And also, what are their interpretations of that? Do they feel like um, because the research shows, and also with these theories, Black women, we experience gendered racism, right? And so when you're experiencing gendered racism in these maternal health care spaces, and you are actively resisting it through your communication, right? How are you interpreting that, or how is she or they interpreting their resistance? Do they feel like it is countering the gendered racism they're experiencing, or do they feel like it's actually making it worse? And so for me, that's important because I want to hone in on Black women's standpoint as valid, and also really honing in on Black women actively countering negativity in their lives because we do that all the time, and it often gets downplayed. But I think it's really important to research, and it's also a gap in the research that needs to be studied. So I think those two, do those the beautification practices and Black maternal health, those two projects I hope to write a paper on, submit it to a conference, present it, and hopefully get it published in the future.
That's excellent. And you will. And
Yeah,
you will.
thank you.
Yes. I have 2 points of questions. I don't know whether or not you considered it, but in regards to bleaching in the Black community,
Mhm.
have you also considered like digital bleaching? So the ways in which we can use apps now to appear lighter or darker, and then connect it to Black maternal health and communicate. You said communicative resistance?
Yes, communicative resistance.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. So within that also, because even recently I had a conversation with my loved one where she left the gyno office still in pain. I said, mm-mm, we can't do
No.
this. I said,
Oh.
like she did not, the gynecologist did not offer her anything because the over-the-counter medicine wasn't working. So I was like, we gotta get a new gynecologist because this is not gonna be it at all, right?
Uh,
So I'm just curious also in the ways in which we talk about our reproductive systems in
hmm,
sister circles because that's my research. So that'd
okay.
be a question that I have, which probably be like a second research study. Like, how do Black women practice communicative resistance within this sister circles when connected to their reproductive health?
Yes.
Because I
Yeah.
definitely can say like my sister circles helped me to recognize like, oh sis, like maybe you should go get that checked out. Like you've been complaining about that for a while. Or
Mhm.
like this is perimenopause and this is what I'm experiencing, right? So I'm just wondering also what does that look like in the places when we don't have to think about, oh, I gotta defend myself against harm and I gotta show up with this shield because potentially I will get less information, right, in the doctor's office because I'm a Black woman and we don't experience pain. So why would they give a higher pain medicine, right? So
Right.
those are the 2
Right.
points that I'm curious, yeah, about under
Those
your research agenda. Yeah.
Those are very interesting. I mean, I've thought about the intersections of beautification practices and technology. I think that'll be a fascinating research interest. Just thinking about, like you said, the apps like Facetune and, AI now. And yes, like how do we as Black women, we actively participate in that, but then also the world around us that is like, okay, like anchoring us on like, yes, this looks good. This is okay. This is, and what does that do for our self-esteem? I think that's a very important question um that we need to ask ourselves, right? What does that do for our self-esteem? Because I am of the impression that as Black women, we are the most beautiful people ever, ever. But when we have like certain beautification practices and certain things such as technology that, it in, I would say like increases our not in, maybe not increases the right word, but it allows us to um okay, I don't know where I was going with that. But
Oh, good.
the yes, so the intersections of technology, beauty, and self-esteem,
Mhm.
very important. Because technology is not going anywhere. And we just had this conversation, right? Like, yes, technology has affordances, but at the same time, what is it allowing us to do? How is it allowing us to change ourselves, even in these digital spaces, right?
Mhm.
And we have to like look at ourselves like that. But then
Mhm.
also in reality, it's a bit different, right? So why are we making these choices? Um, how are we making these choices are important. So yes, I think that's a fascinating intersection. Um, yes. And to your second point about communicative resistance in the sister circle, I immediately thought about social support and how we're there for each other. Like Black women, we are constantly there for each other. And that is another form of love and another form of um, like this tangible love that we have, right? Because we can, like you said, check on each other and say, okay, this you're leaving the gynecologist and you're still feeling pain that shouldn't be happening, right? And sometimes we need that um other voice that's gonna like sometimes we already know it,
Mm-hmm.
but we just need that extra or second voice to say, okay, no, you need to make some changes, right? Because this is a pattern that you're going to keep encountering in these spaces, right? If you still have pain, if you're not being believed, if their words are harming you, and the research says we experience that, our um our anecdotal experiences say we experience that, right? And so it's there. It has to be researched, and there has to be, I think it has to be a change, right? Because our a, we deserve good lives. We deserve to be healthy. We deserve to be wealthy. We deserve the good things, right? And so I just think again, health is wealth, right? And there's so many things operating in our society that is, trying to tell us we don't deserve that. But we know we do. And it's women like myself and other women in the spaces, in the space of health communication, and other spaces as well, who I think are working towards that change that is necessary.
Thank you for your research, helping
Hmm.
us to live well,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
So thank you again, sis, for sharing your journey and reflections on love during this season and also transitions. Thank you, sisters, supporters, and sponsors for listening. Be sure to join the community by following the podcast across social media, including YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, and TikTok with the handle @LorayJourney. Also, be sure to sign up for the newsletter at podcast.mckissickhealth.com. As always, love is real and eternal. In community, peace. Hey, Luray Journey Community Supporter. You can follow the community by following the handle @Luray Journey on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Also, be sure to leave comments on Spotify, YouTube, and follow wherever you're listening or watching the podcast. For those who are part of the book club or love to discuss books and movies, you can follow me at Sharella Cupid on the Fable app. Lastly, you can go to podcast.mckissickhealth.com to sign up for the newsletter. There, you'll receive updates such as new episode drops, events, and so much more. Again, go to podcast.mckissickhealth.com. And as always, love is real and eternal. In community, peace.